Welcome in. It's the Second Cut podcast. It is your mega preview pod for this week's PGA Championship. It's storylines, it's best bets, it's anything else we come across. And look at this crew we've assembled. Oh my goodness, it is a beauty. Greg DuCharme is here. Hello, Greg.
Gentlemen, I'm not sure why I'm the first one chosen, but I can't wait for this one. It's going to be a blast. There are so many things to talk about. This is I think the highest anticipated major championship in my lifetime.
Wow. Okay. We will talk about that. Mark Immelman is here. Hello, Mark.
So glad Kyle is here. He's dropped the average age of this crew significantly. This is great. Good to be with you guys.
And making a triumphant return. It is such a beautiful sight. Kyle Porter is here. KP, it is good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, Mark, unfortunately for both of us, I think you're the only one that I'm younger than, which is tough. The intro is amazing. Sorry, go ahead. What were you saying, Mark?
No, I said you still dropped the average age.
The intro is amazing, guys. It's the After Dark production that Greg and I always wanted to do on our own, and now we're getting to all do it together. So it's fantastic.
We are. KP, how is normal sport? I'm a obviously avid supporter. I love that in a major championship week we're going to get a ton more content. How is life on the normal side of things?
Yeah, it's great. It's been. I mean, as you know, Rick, it's really hard to build a business, but I think it's been more fun and less stressful than I thought it would be, which is a really good combo. It was really fun to go to the Masters, and we hung out a little bit there. We were both running around, but it was fun to go to the Masters and just write whatever I wanted. Not whatever I wanted, but just to cover the things that I wanted to cover as specifically as I wanted to. If I wanted to write about, just Rory on Sunday night, like that's what that's a bad example, but I could do, the best example is Justin Rose in round 2 when he looks like he's bowing down to the second tee box from the fairway. You're like, this is so weird. And you can just write about that. And I don't know, it's been a ton of fun. Like I've really enjoyed it. Even more than I thought I would. I think you saw that coming, maybe, Rick, having run your own business for whatever 5, 6, 7 years now. But it was hard for me to see coming, and so to get to experience it has been a blast.
Yeah, you're in a full sprint at the moment, which I love to see. Gentlemen, we've got a lot to do. I don't know if I'm going to be able to coerce just a little guest tease. Yeah, there he is. That's Patty Ice. We'll have to work on getting him. We've got some things.
He's got the flow happening. We need to take him via right clips or whatever, one of those places, so he can get a little bit of a trim.
Yeah, and he's watching the show. It's Inception. We've got the whole thing. Situated. We're running the media center back here in the corner, gentlemen. My goodness, Greg, let's just start where you started. The anticipation around this event, you described it as what? The highest anticipation of a major championship in your lifetime?
I can't remember. Now, look, there have been bigger single stories, right? When you had Tiger in 2001 going for the Tiger Slam, Tiger in 2000 and Tiger in 2001 and 2002 and 2003, right. Tiger was always a really big storyline, but I can't remember a time where we had the best player in the world coming off a 8-shot victory. The number 2 ranked player in the world coming off completing the career Grand Slam and going to a place where he's won 4 times previously. That doesn't happen very often. And then you have a guy in the best golfer on the other tour, on the Live Golf Tour, and Bryson DeChambeau, who's nearly won every major except for the Open Championship in the last 5. And he comes in off of a win in the last Live event and also on a golf course that should suit him perfectly. It's incredible. Then the guy who won the last major at Quail Hollow, Justin Thomas, he won for the first time in the last 3 years and is clearly playing some great golf. So you expect him to be in the mix. It's this conversation that always happens who is the best at their best? And you never really get an answer to that. And this week feels closer than I've ever seen to actually getting that answer. Who's the best at their best? Because all of the best players are playing their best right now.
Let's get you in here, KP, because not only is it anticipation at the top of the board, but this is a deep field. Our resident Twitter OWGR master Nosferatu tweeted out that that this would become the first tournament to reach a strength of field higher than 500 points since the OWGR changed their new system. So long story short, they did it a couple of years ago, but this is a big one. It's a deep one. All the best players are here.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, Craig didn't even, I presume this was just an alley-oop to me, but he didn't even mention Spieth going for the career Grand Slam this week. And we saw it once over the last, or I guess twice now over the last 50 years. And now we might see it twice in 2 majors. I don't think Spieth is going to win, but it at least feels more.
Do you think, KP, that would be like how Rory's kind of been like the punching bag often the last couple of years? The final step would be to take away the glory by, after finally completing the career Grand Slam, in the very next major, another guy takes the spotlight from him. And
it would be perfect if it was Spieth, because they've had their differences and beef in the past. But no, I mean, to your point, it's it's an incredibly deep field. And, I think I saw the only player, maybe you mentioned this, but the only player not in the top 100 that's not playing is Billy Horschel, I believe.
Oh, no, I didn't see that, but he got surgery.
Yeah, he's injured. So yeah, it's amazing. And it brings about, the tournament takes on kind of a different shape because of that. You see these smaller fields like the Masters, and it's like, okay, well, these are clearly your like 5 guys that after round 1 that are going to kind of contend. We see that stat every year, right? The top 10, I guess it got blown out this year, but the top 10 after round 1 usually goes on to win. And at the PGA, I mean, I posted the round 3 leaderboard from Quail in 2017, and it's like, I don't know if any of those guys finished in the top 10. They were all in the top 10. So you don't know what's going to happen, because there's so many guys that are playing exceptionally well, and that can kind of come out of nowhere. You see, that leaderboard from 2017, it's like Chris Stroud and just kind of random guys where you're like, oh my gosh, like all these guys are so good at golf, and they can have kind of the week of their career and really contend, and to be able to defeat them like Xander did last year, like Bryson's trying to do this year. It's exceptionally difficult. And man, Greg's got me going now. I'm very excited to see what happens this weekend.
We were just saying over here, like, there's still tomorrow where no golf is going to be played, which is like, we're ready for it to start, but we're gonna have to wait till Thursday. Well, Mark, we've set the table here. We've laid out all the possible storylines. What's the 1A? What is the one for the 2025 PGA Championship? You get to choose.
Gosh, that's hard. I think it's the battle between, I don't know if it's the big 3 or the big 5 or whatever you want to call it, but you got Rory, you got Scotty, you got Xander, then you got Bryson, and then you can toss somebody else in there, because you got this really big boy golf course that now folks are going to be scrambling late this evening after another rainstorm that had them off the course for a while today, because there's certain guys that have played here a bunch because they come here for what's now the Truist, was the Wells Fargo. So there's that, not home course knowledge, but they're aware of the place and they understand the lines off the tee and such. Because to me, Quail Hollow is very much a tee shot sort of a golf course, because it's so long that if you hit your tee shots well, then you're on the front foot to success a little bit. Look, you can't not bring the rest of the game. You've got to have everything working. But if you drive it well, you're going to have a chance. Oh, I forgot Xander. So that's the 5. So you got guys scrambling tomorrow like a Scheffler and company who doesn't normally play here very often. And then you got guys like Xander and Rory and JT and them who've had a lot of time around this golf course. So I feel like on this big boy golf course with this big boy field that Greg talks about, it's lining up to be kind of a heavyweight thing over the weekend. Now, because the one thing about Quail to me, it's really democratic, and you got to bring your game to play. And that's why sometimes you will see the odd sort of outlier. But typically this PGA Championship, we go to places where all of a sudden you have the leaderboard that Kyle was talking about. But the way this is shaping up, I feel like the guys coming in here playing well, that means they're going to be around on the weekend. If they're around on the weekend, it's going to be electric, because the Charlotte sports fans show up en masse. I've been here for this Wells Fargo, this Trust, for many years now. I did the President's Cup here, which was, the fans were raucous. So it's all right now with a day to go before we hit golf balls in anger. It's shaping up to be just a titanic heavyweight match that's going to come down to playing that green mile over Sunday. So it's kind of all you want. It really is.
The 54-hole leaderboard in 2017, Rick, at Quail Hollow, Kevin Kisner led, which is crazy because Mark mentioned, the storyline going into this week, or one of the golf course storyline is how far can you hit it and how straight can you hit it. And I think you don't think of Kisner as being at the top of that list. So Kisner's in first.
I don't think that we called it, Kyle. I don't think that through 3 rounds, I don't think he missed a fairway off the tee. It was unreal how straight he was driving it that year.
Yeah. Hideki and Chris Stroud tied for second. That's crazy. Oosthuizen, Justin Thomas, Grayson Murray, Scott Brown, Graham Dillette. Half these guys are announcers now. Francesco Molinari. Surprised you're not on here, Mark. Patrick Reed.
Keep going.
And Gary Woodland. So really a kind of a strange mixture, but JT ends up winning by shooting a final round 68 to Molinari's 67. So it's a really fun one.
And if you look at the way that thing played out after 54 holes, it's like the golf course sorted stuff out on Sunday, because you got this difficult course, you got the pressure of a major, and then you got to finish. So if you look at the leaderboard the way it was after 72, it was kind of the show ponies a little bit of that group that ended up near the top of the leaderboard with JT, pacing the bunch. So yeah, I hear the point. You're going to have those sorts of stories, but Sunday afternoon, it's going to be the big dogs who are going to be showboating around the place.
Greg, Mark mentioned it. He said this place is going to be electric if they're in the mix. Well, I'll tell you what, the big boys, they're going to be playing together, right? So it's going to be electric on Thursday and Friday. The PGA of America gave us the super group. They gave us 1, 2, and 3, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele. We know where everyone will be. So this is going to feel like, and we can argue whether you like that or not, but in an event where there is seemingly a small number of guys, to put like all 3 of them in this, it's going to feel like a major championship from shot 1 on Thursday for that group. I
believe they're going off at 8:24 in the morning on Thursday, and then they're in the afternoon on Friday, which is just a wonderful pairing, a wonderful setup for a Friday afternoon. As long as these guys go out and do what they're capable of doing, go play some good golf. It's likely because of all that weather that you guys have been experiencing down there that it's going to be pretty soft, and it may be as receptive and as gettable as possible on Thursday morning. So, it's going to be important for those players together to go out there and get some momentum going. Mark can speak to this better than any of us. The momentum in a group is a real thing. And sometimes it's hard in these super groups. You get 1, 2, and 3 in the world, and they're a little nervous, a little slow off the start, kind of feeling each other out. Yeah, and next thing you know, somebody that you didn't see coming is up there near the top of the leaderboard. So it'll be really important for them to get off on the right foot. And if they do that, even if they don't, but especially if they do that, Friday afternoon will be absolutely electric.
It will. Real quick for Rick and Mark, because you guys are out there. I saw a couple different people talking about how it's super wet. Obviously, it's rained a ton, but the greens they can turn it, they can like dial them up. And I mean, you've been out there a ton, Mark. I'm just curious about how you feel like how will they get the greens going? Even if the rest of the course is soggy, will they be able to dry them out enough to kind of get the bouncing around and stuff like that?
Well, our sideline reporter, Patrick McDonald, who I was talking with on Monday afternoon, I said to him, I want to know one thing. I know it's raining. And he sent the video of it raining because it it looked like we were about to see Noah and the Ark out there somewhere. and I'm like, can you hear a dull roar in the background near the greens? And he goes, yep. I'm like, yeah, they got those sub-airs going already. So they had the sub-air greens going, the systems going from Monday. But something to bear in mind too, Kyle, to your question, is that these greens were redone just a year and a half, 2 years ago. So they're still very new. And so as a result, they're still very firm, and the root structure of the grass really hasn't taken, it's like golf nerd stuff, but it really hasn't taken, and the greens haven't settled. So they were firm anyway, and it's been sort of dry around the place here. And now with this rain, yes, it softened up the fairways, and it's going to make the rough disastrous, but the greens are still firm. So I really don't see, as long as I feel like the course will play, I don't think people are going to take it apart. I feel like if you shoot something in the 60s, you're playing pretty well because you've got firm greens and a long golf course and some heavy rough.
Yeah, I agree.
It is. So we walked out there today. So obviously after all the rain yesterday, Greg, but before that like massive storm that shut it down again today, it was incredibly wet. The rough is nasty. It's sopping everywhere, but those new greens still have a little bit of bounce to them. It is not just sitting and stopping. Maybe on some like fuller wedge shot kind of downhill stuff we saw it, but we saw a lot of bounce for a golf course that has taken 2+ inches of rain in the last 24 hours.
You know, last year was the first year they played on the new greens, and it gets incredibly bouncy, almost to the point where it's not realistic. So I imagine that this will do a lot of good for them. It will really help the players. You get more realistic bounces, or bounces that make more sense. I guess it is realistic because it is real. But you'll get more bounces that make a little more sense. But it's still a strange thing. The fairways are slopping around. Your ball's in a pitch mark plugged in the middle of the fairway, and you got to play it 10 short of the flag coming into the green. That's it's a very strange concept, and it'll be something that's hard to imagine. One thing about this golf course that really stands out to me, it will be accentuated this week, is the average approach shot distance is like over 183 yards, which is 15 yards longer than the average on the PGA Tour.
That's
PGA Tour average like 167.
Greg, is that at like like at the normal event that they have there?
Yes.
Okay.
Normal event. So this is Quail last 5 years average, which doesn't include 2017. Because they have different grasses at that time. But nearly 30% of the approach shots come from outside of 200 yards. And it's also one of the hardest golf courses to get it close from the fairway. The last 5 times we've been to Quail Hollow, it's been in the top 3 in difficulty for proximity to the hole from the fairway. And that's actually top 4. Overall is top 3. So it's incredibly difficult to get the ball close to the hole, whether you're coming out of the fairway or the rough. And when you add this extra length just from the moisture and still have some firmness in the greens, to Mark's point, I think that's going to show some teeth early on.
Yeah, and to that, Greg, you think about this as well, right? Because when the greens are like that, and a player, you can't. They do have this approach where you've got this area of Bermuda grass where there's ordinarily mown quite tight. It's like a green. It's different to the green surface, and you can bounce the ball through there. But that's unpredictable right now. So as a result, you have to fly the ball on the green, and if the green is firm, then you run the risk of it going or running through, right? So then you start to think, and this is where Scotty Scheffler is a master, but he hasn't played you very much, where he's going to rely heavily on Ted Scott, because when you're playing to situations like that, you're not like you're playing to stiff shots. You're playing almost where's the best place to miss? Where's the best place to get up and down from? And now some guys who haven't played you very much, they've had limited preparation time on the course. So it's not like they're going to be flying blind on Thursday morning, but tomorrow's practice day is going to be very, very important. And I'm not there right now, but I would expect the guys out on the golf course right now doing a whole bunch of work. The weather is supposed to be good. So that's the first thing about the greens. And then quickly, Rick, the second thing is when the greens were redone, I remember coming here moons ago when it was bent grass, and there was some significant, almost too much, I would say, tiers and slopes and hills and valleys and perches on the greens. But those will soften for a situation like this, where Kerry Haigh can come in here and he's got just about every part of every green to use for potential hole locations. So then as a result, this is where if you played a President's Cup or if you played the Wells Fargo a few times on these new greens now, you kind of know where potential hole locations are. But with Kerry Haigh, who's fantastic and sometimes a bit of a wild card with golf course setup, he can put those flags anywhere. So to me, all I'm thinking is like, gosh, preparation time is paramount to really know what's going on, because in the end, it could be one stroke that's the difference.
I'm looking at the player locator right now, and if this is correct, there's not a single player on the driving range right now, but there are dozens out on the golf course trying to get some intel in while the rain is staying away. I want to take some questions here from our Patreon, so we're going to pod through here for a second. This is our way to support the show. If you want to join the Patreon, that's great. We've had a nice chunk of influx here the last couple of days. We are going to draw. Mark picked up some stuff from the Masters. We're going to pull those names before we let Mark go here. Say again?
From the Truist, not the Masters.
I'm sorry, from the Truist. We'll pull those winners here before we let Mark go, and then I'll get something from the Pro Shop this week that we'll give away. So if you want to join the Patreon, you've got like 15 minutes and get in right now, and Mina will pull your name and we'll get you into the draw. This question's from Ryan Chapman, and I'm going to give it to you, KP. So this is from a Patreon question. It says, JT won in 2022 in a very unique fashion. How would his legacy immediately change if he could pull off a third victory? So it'd be 3 major championships. All of them are PGAs.
Yeah, unique fashion is certainly one way to say it. I'll never forget being on the 18th hole at Southern Hills, and Mito hits it in the water. And one of your colleagues, Mark, won't say who, but said, I think Mito just got electrocuted. That's what that swing looked like. It was brutal. Yeah, I think this is, if we're just talking legacy, this is going to sound really dumb because you always want to win major championships. But if we're strictly talking legacy, I don't think this is a good one for JT to win. And there's 2 reasons for that. 1, he's already won here. And 2, he's already won 2 PGAs. So if you said, hey, JT, you can win one of the next 5 or I don't know, 8 majors, this is probably at the bottom of the list, right? He'd rather win at Oakmont. He'd rather win and again, you'd always rather win a major, but just legacy wise, I don't know that 3 PGAs does as much for you as 2 PGAs in Portrush or 2 PGAs and a Masters win, which is obviously kind of a different echelon altogether. So, I mean, certainly it 3 major championships elevates you plus a players for JT, but I think the bigger thing it does, or it would do for JT if he wins, is kind of reignite the conversation around him. Is hey, how many can he get to? Right? Could he get to 4, or could he tie Brooks and where Rory's at now? I'm still not used to saying that Rory has 5 majors, because we've talked about how he had 4 for 27 years now. But yeah, I think that's the bigger thing for JT, is not necessarily legacy, but okay, how does it sort of affect his near-term trajectory at major championships?
Yeah, it's fascinating and it is funny, but I agree. If he was guaranteed one of the next 8, this would absolutely be at the bottom of the list. But you'll take it if you're there.
Absolutely.
On Sunday. One more, and I'll shoot this over to you, Greg, to get this conversation started. Quail Hollow. This is from Alex. Quail Hollow. It's obviously pretty unique because we get to see it so often, and then we get it as a part of the major championship rotation. So is this an overrated golf course? Is it an underrated golf course, or is it a properly rated golf course? It's also very unique because of how often we get to see it.
Yes. And quite frankly, if you're watching, if you're following any of the action on golf Twitter, the golf course is not very popular. And I think that's its biggest problem. The biggest problem with Quail Hollow is that we play it every year. And I think it takes it down because we don't want to be playing major championships on a course we play every year. And I do think that that's a little unfair. So how do you rate? How is it rated by the public? If you're looking at just golf Twitter, it's not rated very highly. In that case, I would say this is an underrated venue. Is it one of my top choices of venues I would choose if I were involved with the PGA? But if I were making that decision, no, I probably wouldn't do that. But it is a good test for the best players in the world. This golf course will demand different parts of your game all the way through the bag. It will be on full display. And if you have a weakness, it will be on display. I'll say one last thing about this. The PGA, it's about having the strongest field. The PGA, if you listen to Kerry Haig this morning, he talked about how he doesn't want to be the story. He wants the players to be the story. And when the players are the story, you end up with a great tournament like we always do. Like we've gotten every single year, every time this tournament has been in May. And I think this golf course does allow for the players to be the story. So I would say from what I've seen on golf Twitter, it's an underrated venue. But I understand where all the talk comes from.
Go ahead, Mark. I'll go after you.
I need to say this. You did this for me, didn't you, Rick? You brought this question just to get me. This sounds like the BS that I heard about Torrey Pines South.
That's what I was going to say, Torrey.
Okay. Yeah. Torrey's boring, man. It just goes one way or the other, and it's bad for TV. I'm like, hey, man, why don't you just come walk around the golf course and understand the architectural greatness of it? Because you're playing to tilted fairways, and then the green works in the opposite direction, and how it works with the land. It just Torrey fit in there to that tract of land perfectly well. You could not have done the golf course any differently on that tract of land there. That's how brilliantly it's done. And if you look at Quail Hollow, the beauty of this golf course is that there's significant elevation change. And to me, elevation is always a golf course's best defense. If you look at the greens, and if I had to toss this out to golf Twitter, because none of them have gone to Royal Melbourne, yet they will say it's the greatest course in the world because they've read a bunch of noise about it. If you look at some of the bunkering and how they cut into the greens like this, if it wasn't so green, you would think it was Royal Melbourne. The only difference is that sort of brownish, sort of toasty look that you get down there at Royal Melbourne because it's so dry. But watch the greens, how they cut into the bunkers, how they cut into the greens. How then off there, oftentimes if you look at a bunker, and we saw that last week with Tillinghast stuff, our bunkers on the backside of them always had a downslope, and it made greens almost little punch bowls at times. So if you were short-sighted, you were cooked. But over here, they cut that stuff into the green, and then there'll be like a level plateau right over there, so they can put a flag 3 or 4 paces from a bunker on an area you can putt. Where last week they were struggling for hole locations like that at the Philly Cricket Club. And then, of course, you got these situations where you've got fairways that are flat that you can drive at. You've got fairways that are tilted. You've got fairways that tilt in the opposite direction of a dog leg. This place is great. It is just good. And you are not going to fake it around you. And to me, that's the ultimate measure of a golf course. And then finally, then I'll stop. I'll come up for air, as my producer says. The membership love this place because they won't get beaten up like that. You got to play well to play well here, but they're not a bunch of forced carries. Some of the greens you can roll the ball up there. You're going to have to play well to play well. But I've played here a couple times, and it's not like you go to certain courses where you just walk off the course and you're worn out. Not this place. It is fun to play. It's going to challenge you. And to Greg's point, you're going to bring all of your golf bag because you're going to use everything.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been to the Royals in Australia. I mentioned the bunkering to Patrick today. So it's funny you say that, Mark. Also, I was surprised at how many of the landing areas off the tee you cannot see, how many of the bottoms of the pins you cannot see on your approaches. So yeah, definitely more elevation than I thought out here. That concludes our potting through for now. We'll get back to some more questions later. The Patreon link, if you're interested, is in the description. KP, Bryson DeChambeau will be the most popular one and done selection. He will be and has been bet down significantly this week to one of the 3 favorites to win this golf tournament. His last 5 majors have gone incredibly well. This is a golf course that we have talked about bombers and club head speed and everything else in between. So will the beefy one be back in the mix on Sunday?
Well, the only reason I don't like him is because everybody else likes him so much. Everything else is screaming like, yes, absolutely. You look at his recent major play. You look at his recent PGA Championship play. He's been the best PGA Championship golfer in terms of strokes gained, I believe, over the last like 5 years. You probably have the numbers in front of you, but like 5 or 6 years. T2 last year. I think he was T4 at Oak Hill. He had to withdraw from Southern Hills, and then played pretty well at Kiowa. And what's the other one that I'm forgetting? 2020 was Harding Park. He finished in the top 10 as well. So he's been awesome at PGAs. And I mean, you listen to how Xander and JT were talking today about how like you kind of hit it as far as you can off the tee and then go get. And I think to Mark's point, I do think it's going to be a second shot course in that it's always a second shot course, but you don't have to worry a ton about positioning off the tee based on what like Xander and JT are saying, right? Like, and guys that have had a lot of success here. And I just think that plays really well into Bryson's hands. The one thing that concerns me, you go back to Augusta, his iron play was not very good. And especially on the weekend. I mean, what did he shoot on Saturday? Like 68 or 67. And you're like, I don't understand how he shot that because he didn't hit it. I mean, he's been driving it great, but he didn't hit his irons that well. And so that's the part where you're like, I wonder how that's going to go. But he's just turned into such a great major championship player. I love him this week. You're going to see that on my betting card later on. And I'm excited. Majors have been way better because he's been involved in them, and hopefully he gets in the mix again.
A quick thought, Rick, on Bryson. If there was one and done, I'd be playing him. And the reason being is Quail Hollow loves a draw. It loves a draw, this place. Mm-hmm. And that's what he tries to hit. And he's long. And yeah, if he cleans out the iron game, I'm liking what I see this week. At least the mechanics and the stuff that he has fits the examination that's going to be Quail Hollow.
Well, he said that today, Mark. He said, hey, Rory's had success here because he hits that draw and he hits it far. He's like, I'd like to think that I do a pretty similar thing in terms of the way he sets up to the golf course. So you and Bryson are on the same page.
Well, oh my God. That's not the best thing, is it?
that's the only topic I think that they are aligned on. I'm very proud of KP because here are the last 5 years of PGA championships. He has mentioned that Bryson has only played 4 of them compared to the other guys 5, but he's picked up 2.94 strokes per round. It is the best. It is better than everyone, but Scotty, Justin Rose, Xander Schauffele, and Victor Hovland round out the top 5 of that list. So
Justin Rose, that's super interesting, right?
Yeah. So he went, let's see here, 9th in 2020, T8, 13th, 9th, 6th. So all of them are 13th or better.
That's not who, I mean, obviously Justin Rose is a great player, but you would have expected Rory to be up there, or like a DJ or somebody like that, at just the way PGAs have, mostly set up over the last 5 or 6 years. That'd be cool if Justin Rose was able to bounce back from that Masters and win a second major.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him. The other live golfer that I think most people are circling, Greg, is Jon Rahm. So we've got Bryson, who's been playing great golf all over the globe. He's been playing golf in major championships. Rahm has this, 100 event top 10 streak that he's got going on. And since he went to live, his first couple of major championship starts were not great. His last 2 have been better. What is the expectation for Rahmbo around Quail Hollow?
Well, I do think that he's a little more comfortable with his position. Walking into the press room, like the first time he did after joining Liv as the Masters champion was very uncomfortable for him. And I think that played a pretty significant role in his performance. And you saw him get really frustrated. And he talks about how he doesn't have to be perfect in order to win majors. But it felt like over those last couple of years that he felt like he had to be perfect. And when he wasn't, he was very upset about it. So it has gotten a whole lot better. Looking at Jon Rahm at Quail Hollow, thinking like I am, this is a driver's golf course. It should set up perfectly for him. But I'm wondering if what Mark says about this golf course loving a draw has a negative impact on Jon Rahm. He hasn't played Quail Hollow a lot, but the only 2 times that he has, he played it in 2017. He finished tied 58th. He played what was then the Wells Fargo in 2021 and missed the cut, which I kind of find surprising. So I wonder what it is, because you would think that it would set up perfect for him year in and year out. Hasn't really been the case. Can he bounce back? Yeah, I think his performance on Liv looks to be pretty good. I don't know how much stock we put into top 10s on Liv. It's a 54 player field. It's the same players every week, and there's no cut, and it's very top heavy. So, what does a top 10 really mean? It's hard for me to assess that. But looking at the T14 at the Masters after a slow start, I think he's got to definitely take some confidence from that.
All right, Rombo is in a group with, I just had it, and I probably should have started that sentence until I knew that I had it. He is in a group with Patrick Cantlay and Matt Fitzpatrick going out at 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. Okay, gentlemen, here's what we're going to do. I want to talk about more players, and we are going to do that in the form of the infamous grid. If you have never seen this before, Armina's quick on the trigger. I haven't even set it up yet. That's okay. We do a matchup, a finishing position, 2 separate outrights, and we've got a lot to get through here. We're going to start with the matchups. Mark, this is hot off the presses. What did you find for this week, please?
Well, thanks to you, I've found the matchups. Things don't change there. Quickly on Rahm, though, I can't say, look, he's a great player. I can't say I'm a fan around this golf course just because of the shape of it. And to Greg's points, like he's trying too hard in major championships. And to that trying too hard thing, I saw last week post Saturday round at Philly Cricket Club, where Colin was in the stuff a little bit and then had the bad day, obviously the new caddy and Joe Griner on the bag. And there was a conference going on the practice range. No golf clubs, just 2 guys kind of looking at each other in the eye and having like what looked like a massive debrief about a day that didn't go very well. So you got Colin, who's sort of there for a minute, then the game's gone away and he's surprisingly inconsistent. And then you got Ludwig Oberg, who really the only issue is the fact that the guy has not been making very many putts. Yeah, he hasn't hit it like he normally does, but even his bad stuff is still good. So I'm looking at this big golf course. I'm looking at a guy in sort of Colin who's there and thereabouts, but I just feel like I'm taking Oberg over Morikawa because, to Greg's point in a previous show, it's not often you're going to get that guy at this sort of a line. So I'm taking Ludwig over Morikawa, 2 guys that really aren't playing their best, but just what Ludwig's weapons system is, it fits this golf course.
Mark, when I made that comment last week, it lost. But so hopefully we can turn the tide this week. I still like the play.
Go ahead, Greg. While you're ready to rock and roll, let us know what you got.
Okay, I have the big guns over the field. Now the big guns
Tell us who they are. Yeah.
Scotty, Rory, Bryson, Xander, and JT. 5 guys over everybody else.
So one of those guys has to win for this to win.
I'm not sure which one of those guys is going to win, but I am sure that one of those guys is going to win.
So say them again so I can. It's Rory,
Scotty, Rory, Bryson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Xander, JT.
Okay. That was the
Which
okay.
God,
I don't see how anybody else wins.
It seems impossible, right? I mean, which means that like Scott Stallings will win or whatever. But
Wow, we have not had a Scott Stallings reference.
He's not.
He completed the New York Marathon just the other day, coming back from surgery. You see that?
He's always my go-to, Rick. You know that.
I know.
I have an update. Quick update. Important update. There's actually six. There's 6.
Oh, Ludwig.
Nope, it's not Ludwig.
Rahm.
Yes. Rahm.
Okay. So Rory, Rahm, Bryson, Xander, Scotty, JT versus the field.
Yes.
Okay.
Minus 125.
Minus 125. I hope that happens, or I guess it would be good for me because I have Justin Thomas over Joaquin Niemann and Terrell Hatton in a matchup. I'm buying all the JT stock. I think I've been saying that for a while, and I don't think Niemann hits it high enough, and I think that Hatton has struggled more in 2025 than he did in 2024. So very simple. It's plus 140, and it's a 3-ball. KP, I love that you have disregarded the structure of the show and have not gone with a matchup. You have not gone with a finishing position. That is welcome here. We are the bad boys of golf podcasting. We can do whatever we want. So tell the people what you have in the matchup portion of your grid.
Well, the truth is that I pulled a mark and I couldn't find the matchup. So the only thing I could find was these groups, and they had some like Group A, Group B, and then they had some different country and continent groups. And the one that I found is top rest of. So this is essentially the International President's Cup team. If you're eligible for that, you're eligible for
right
for this particular category.
It's not America and it's not Europe.
Correct. And I'm going Corey Connors. I don't think Corey Connors is going to win the tournament. I don't think he's ever going to win a major, but I do think he plays really good major championship golf. And remember back, I think it was Kiowa. I think he led after round 1, but he always played great at Augusta. He always plays great at Augusta. So he's playing really good tee to green golf. I do think maybe he went like 0-5 here at the 2022 President's Cup, which is a tough scene. But maybe it was a different Canadian that did that.
No, both of them.
They both did. They were 0-4 each, I think.
There you go. So didn't remember that one until this second. Everything else has been great though. So yeah, Corey Connors, top rest of the world.
I love that. KP, while you're rocking and rolling, move us over to your finishing position here. I didn't see this before. I was also fading this guy, so I'm glad we are simpatico here.
Yeah, Joaquin Niemann to miss the cut. I honestly kind of like the number more than anything. That seemed like it was a little bit too long. Plus 290 for Niemann to miss the cut. Listen, like the discourse around Niemann is just preposterous. It's out of control. He's a very good player. Like he's a really, really good player. I'm with you. I don't love this golf course for him. And I just don't think it's 3-1 seems like way too big of a number for me I think he's going to miss the cut at least 1 out of every 3 times. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, this is a golf course that has water on a lot of holes. You could easily throw up a big score going through the Green Mile, and like you didn't play all that poorly, and you missed the cut. So there is some volatility in that nature as well. So it's probably a little too long. Yeah,
and he's missed. No top 15s at majors. Missed the cut at the PGA in 2023. It's just T58 at the Open last year. I don't know. There's just like he's not a guy where it's like, oh man, Niemann's leading the tournament on Friday night. That just doesn't happen that often. He's played good golf this year, better golf than he has in the past, but I don't know. I like him to potentially miss the cut.
But Phil said he's the best player in the world. Come on.
Well, yeah, Phil says a lot of things.
Yeah, and not many of them end up being accurate. Mark, you have opted to go with a Dean player, a live player. I think I gave away who it is, please.
No, I am picking a live guy, and so I need Mina to highlight this pick because this might be the first time in the history of ever. But I just cannot avert my eyes from plus 150 and Dean Burmester, Dean the swinging machine from South Africa, to finish inside the top 40. Remember last year at Valhalla, he was in one of the last few groups and very much in the thick of things over the weekend. He's been playing well out there on that other league, wherever they're playing all over the world. And I love Burmese. The golf course suits him. He is long. I was looking for a Michael Block missed the cut number, but I couldn't find that. So I went with Burmester in the top 40 for plus 150.
I don't know if we will stand for that Michael Block slander around here, but I helped Dean find a ball on his ball on the left side of 6 last year, or else that thing he was going to go back to the tee. So I got a little bit of credit for that good finish. Worth a stroke. That's right, a stroke or two. I'm not getting paid for it, but yes, Dean Burmeister top 40 plus 150. Here's my
Mark. Top live golfer Dean Burmeister 22-1. I kind of like that. It's kind of interesting.
Boy, I would pop on that one too. That's a good.
How many are in the field, KP? Roughly a dozen.
It looks like 15, something like that.
Wow, 22-1. That's not bad. This is where I got my Bryson DeChambeau exposure. Top 10. Again, I don't know if he's going to win it. Maybe Scotty wins it. Maybe Rory wins it. Seems to be in the mix. Seems to be in the final couple groups every time we get to a major championship. And this is a really good setup for him. So I don't think I need to just continue that conversation. Greg, you also found a top 40, which I love. What'd you get?
I came up with Gary Woodland for a top 40. Again, I'm thinking distance here is very important. Gary Woodland has been smashing the ball this season, playing some pretty good golf. Also, in his last 3 trips to Quail Hollow, he finished inside the top 40, tied 38, tied 14th, and 5th. He had a withdraw and a miscut the 2 previous years, but then the 5 years previous to that, he's finished inside the top 25. So he's played some really good golf at Quail Hollow, and I think that comes from his ability to hit the ball a really long way, to perform with long irons into these greens. It's a big ballpark. It's a good setup for him. We saw him finish tied 2nd just about a month ago. So Gary Woodland, I think, has been playing well enough to validate a top 40 at plus 180.
Top 10, a pair of top 40s, and a missed the cut wager. You love to see it. Our outrights, 2 separate outrights. We've been talking a lot about a small group of players that can win this golf tournament, so no surprise that there's quite a bit of overlap here. Greg, I'm going to give you first crack at the outrights. What did you find, and who'd you pick?
Yeah, you might think because I have the big guns over the field as my matchup, I would hedge and go with some small guns, but I did not do that.
Some pistols?
Yeah, I decided not to do that. I went with Bryson DeChambeau plus 950. I think his advantage off the tee here is phenomenal. Extremely intense. I mean, he finished, just to give you an idea, you guys were talking about his poor iron play at the Masters. Well, Bryson has only played here at Quail on one occasion since he became Beefy Bryson. That was in 2021. Now, in 2018, when he was still, skinny Bryson, he finished 4th. He finished tied 9th in 2021. He lost 5 1/4 shots to the field approaching the green. Still finished tied 9th. That driving distance goes a long way. I think it does again. And with his major championship performance, I couldn't leave him off my card. Did
you mention the other guy?
Do I have to?
No.
My other guy is Scotty Scheffler, world number 1 at 4.5 to 1, maybe 4 1/4. So I'm a big fan of what Scotty's done. Now, talking about all the driving distance and the ability to cut corners and, the ability to take really long holes and make them shorter. That's what Bryson and Rory can offer. But what Scotty can offer is 5 irons, 4 irons, 3 irons from 200, 220, 240 that end up 8 feet away. He has the ability to kind of supercharge. I'll put it this way. If you remember the game Mario Kart, there was a thing you could get where you get a star and you become all colorful and you go really fast and nothing can hurt you.
Yeah,
you become invincible. Well, that's kind of like Scotty Scheffler. It doesn't really matter what gets in his way or what the golf course is, because if you hit it dead straight every time and hit it right at the flag every time, it works on every golf course. I can't leave Scotty out of this one.
Rick, I can see Mina's next graphic's going to be like with Scotty's face in it. Look, Greg, you had to pick Scotty because you picked him for every major last year, and he stumbled at one. And
you can't win the last three if you don't win the PGA.
Yeah, and thankfully he's playing pretty well. So things are lining up in your favor here.
I did not jump in expecting a Mario Kart reference. It's very normal sports stuff, Greg.
Yeah, not bad.
I'm talking, so I'll just go. I had Bryson and Patrick Cantlay. Rick and you and I were texting about this before the Masters. It felt like the Rory and Scotty Masters because they were so short to win that event. And what's crazy to me is that they're still both very, very short, but Bryson is kind of inching up there as well.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty unusual thing. You don't get three guys under 10-1 when two of them are under 5-1 very often. That's pretty rare. But I love, I said it earlier, I just love the way that Bryson's playing. He's having, Data Golf did this thing he's having like a historical driving year. He's gaining almost 2 strokes around off the tee, which is insane. Like if you gain 2 strokes overall, you're like a top 5 or 10 guy, and he's doing it off the tee alone. Some of that's noisy because it's the live data, but he's been amazing off the tee. And then Cantlay, the Cantlay thing is just it's a numbers thing. 40-1 is too long on somebody that is that good, and I see you have him also, Mark, and he's just been like the major stuff hasn't been great, but he's like I was talking to Joseph Lamagna about this. He's 180 ball speed. He's a real. You had that great graphic, Rick, of like if you're above. I think it was 180 was the number somewhere around.
I think it was 175. Yeah.
Okay, if you're above 175, your baseline at Quail Hollow is like you're going to play pretty well. Like it's very difficult to not play well if you're hitting it, if you're that fast off the tee. So I think Cantlay's kind of sneaky long, sneaky fast, and I think he could get in contention, especially after what he did at Philly Cricket Club last weekend.
Hey Kyle, it only took you 51 minutes to get Data Golf mentioned in our show.
I was tempted many times before that.
Right? Mark, you have the Patrick Cantlay as well, and I don't think it's much of a surprise who your other outright is. So let's hear them from you, please.
Yeah, well, Cantlay, I had him in the final round last week, and you talk about the ball speed. He is sneaky long. He is swinging beautifully. He seems to have found the range on the greens. And I said last week after we had finished calling the golf, I said to my on-course guys, I'm like, that's a sneaky pick. So I'm going with Cantlay plus 4,000. And then Rory to me is like Scotty is to Greg. So I've just got to do it. I'm going to have to do it for the rest of the season. But the reality is McIlroy can fall out of bed and play this golf course properly. So, I mean, I would hate myself if I just did not pick him because the number was so short and then he played well. So Rory and Cantlay for me.
And Rory and Xander for me. I've spoken ad nauseum about these guys for months and weeks, and should be no surprise that they're showing up on the card. So it's Rory, Xander for me. Greg went with Bryson, Scotty. Mark went with Rory and Cantlay. Kyle went with Bryson and Patrick Cantlay. That concludes the grid, and it concludes our time with you, Kyle. I have to get you out of here, but I love having you. The chat loves having you. I'm sure you are stoked for a very normal week, my friend. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got youth baseball practice to get to, which is a normal thing in and of itself. Last time I didn't go to a PGA Championship was Phil 2021, which was an all-timer. So hopefully we get that level of major again this weekend. No, I love this. Thank you for inviting me. It's always fun to talk to you guys. I always learn a lot from you guys, which is awesome because it's beneficial to what I'm doing. And appreciate you having me.
All right, love it. Thanks, KP.
Thanks, KP.
We'll chat soon. Kyle Porter, Normal Sports. Mark, hang around for just 1 second because we are going to pull the winners of the Patreon giveaway. We're going to pick 4 winners. Now, I guess the way we should do this, Mark, we'll pick 4, and then we'll contact them in that order. The first person can choose which one they want. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, so the way that we've done this is Mina has an updated list, like as of this minute, and she has dropped it into a wheel of names. She will, I presume, share her screen. There it is. That's the wheel, and we are going to spin it around 4 times, and we'll make note of who it is, and we will reach out to you on your email address that you have in Patreon. We're doing this for this week. I will grab stuff at the merch shop probably tomorrow, and we'll do a PGA Championship giveaway probably next week or something. And I know Greg has ordered some golf balls with the second cut, some Titleist with the second cut logo on there. So we'll get those out as well. We'll try to do this as much as we can. So Mina, whenever you are ready, let's get our first winner here. Oh, there's
This
sound.
is too cool. This is so cool.
I did not know there was going to be sound.
Go. Sit.
Sit. That looks to me okay. Kevin Donner, congratulations! You are number 1. We will get in touch with you.
Right.
First, you will have your pick of one of the 4 items.
Well, I'm going to say this as this thing goes. First prize to me was the Liberty Bell T-shirt. So, Kevin, you're getting the Liberty Bell T-shirt.
I like that one a lot too. The logos and the merch they had were great. This is. Oh, right on the edge.
Wow.
That was right. I thought it was going to be the McDonald that I asked Patrick if he was related to. He said he was not related. So that's good.
Hey, unless my memory serves, this is Mike who called me Trevor's father.
Yeah, that's
right. Okay, Mike.
That's right.
Right.
That is right. Mike said, "Oh, that's Mark Trevor's father."
Mike,
congratulations.
You can get the Rick Gehman green T-shirt.
Yeah, that's a good one too. All right, good job, Mike. All right, let's go. Let's run it, Mina. Let's see what we get. Wow, that one was right on the border. They don't always finish that way, do they? Sometimes they fit in the middle. Dr. Panda, DRPNDA, congratulations. You are number 3.
Yeah, Drinks Coaster's on the way to you.
I love that. And then our final one here for today will be Ryan Stavrakis. Congratulations. Wow. All right. You know him?
Yeah, he lives in Charleston. Great guy.
Patrick, I don't know if you could hear it. Patrick said, and I quote, he lives in Charleston. That's a great guy. He knows Ryan.
Send it to me.
Well,
I'll give it to him.
Hey, well, Patrick, he's going to have some Drinks Coasters. So when you have Sauvignon Blancs together, you can put it on his new Drinks Coaster.
You said you were going to deliver it straight to Ryan?
Yeah, you guys can just send that merch box to me, and I'll definitely be sure that I get it in the hands of Ryan.
I don't trust you.
Is it okay if we just do it off camera like that? That'll work. I'll just hold a mic up to his mouth. Okay, congratulations again. We'll continue to do this. Thank you for the support on the Patreon. We will do many more of these. The link is in the description. Mark, thank you as always, brother.
Yeah, let's walk golf courses tomorrow, Rick. Let's go check out the lay of the land.
Yes, we are going to get out there tomorrow, hopefully in a much more scenic way. But yes, we will do that tomorrow. Thank you very much, Mark. I will see you then. Goodbye. Greg and I have work to do, my friend. We are going to take it the rest of the way. We've got your golfer of the week. We've got your fantasy stuff. I probably have a question or 2 that I need to work in from the Patreon, which came in earlier. But let's start here. This is the golfer of the week. This is the guy that you cannot live without. You look through everything. You consider all the angles. And if you could only click one name, that golfer is who?
Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh, Mina, nice work. That is beautiful.
Well done.
I just think this golf course is absolutely perfect for Bryson. Another thing about Bryson that has been perhaps underrated is what he's done on the greens. His putting performance is he's a very solid putter. And that's the kind of thing that could carry, it adds to the mix when you think about what he does off the tee. But you're gaining two strokes around off the tee. That gets you up to in the neighborhood of 8 strokes for the week off the tee. And you probably got to get to 17 or so to win. You're halfway home after you hit your tee shot. And what he can do on the greens, he can get the rest of the way there. So I'm in a strange way, I'm not overly worried about his iron play. I think he can cut off so much of this golf course, so much of this length, that he's going to be playing a different golf course. When you look at the 5-year historical averages of approach play and how difficult it is, he's going to be looking at a completely different situation. I think it improves for him. I can't leave him off. I can't leave him off anything.
Well, let me run this question from Patreon back here. So this is from Sunny Vega, and I think it's kind of in conversation with what you were talking about. It says, how does the longer rough affect this versus PGA Tour setups? And is it kind of turning into a little bit of a putting contest? That's Sonny's question. The way that I interpret that, Greg, is, we talked about, like, you're going to miss a lot of greens around here, and you're going to have to get up and down. And yes, obviously distance is going to be critical, but I do think that there is going to be these like momentum saving putts that these guys are. You can't be completely deficient on the putting surfaces.
No, you can't. It's, I think, rather important. And like it always is, right? If you actually want to win the golf tournament, you have to putt really well. As for the rough, when rough gets long, it impacts shorter hitters more, right? And if you're talking about hitting out of the rough with a 5-iron in your hand versus hitting out of the rough with a wedge in your hand, it's a totally different ball game. And I don't see, unless maybe it's a par 5, there are a couple holes, perhaps 18 or 16, where if he misses the fairway, it can be a challenge. Same for everybody. But all in all, it's a big advantage. And the other thing about this golf course is, as you start to hit it farther, this is something you got to look for with Mark tomorrow, Rick. As you start to hit it farther, you take trouble out of play and it opens up. So a golf course that, like JT says, you got to hit it long and straight. It's narrow. It's long, but narrow. But as you start hitting it out over the fairway bunkers and cutting the corners, it opens up a little bit. And I think even if Bryson ends up in the rough, he'll be able to handle it just fine because of the clubs he's hitting in. I don't hear you, Rick.
Sorry. I was
a tale as old as time.
I pressed you. Tale as old as time. You pressed the mute button. You forgot to unmute yourself. I was talking to Patrick and I forgot to unmute myself. All right, we're going to go through the fantasy tiers just as a way to discuss more players. This 10K tier, Greg, I don't think we need to spend much time on it. We have spoken a lot about Rory McIlroy. We've talked a ton about Bryson DeChambeau. Those are on the short list. We have not really said too much about Scotty. Now, you had him on your outright card, but like it's weird because he is long. It's just not ungodly long, which is what everybody seems to be looking for this week.
Yes. And that basically it changes. There's like 5 or 6 holes out here where you can really cut off a lot of distance if you can fly at 320. There are very few guys who can do that. And even the guys that can do that, it doesn't mean you're going to win. So that's why Bryson and Rory are so highly touted this week, and deservedly so, because they can cut off that corner and the rest of their game is strong enough to go compete in major championships. Scotty will play the traditional way. But because he's so accurate and because his long irons are so good, he plays the traditional way better than anybody else. Can he catch? It's a little bit of an uphill battle for him against Rory and Bryson just after the tee shots, but he has all the stuff to handle that. I mean, he gained nearly 13 strokes just on approach shots last week in his last start. 18 strokes ball striking on another long golf course. So he can handle long approaches with the best of them. I have a really hard time leaving Scotty off any DFS lineup. I just think the chances of him winning are so high, and that's included this week. But I'd really, Rick, I don't know if you think this is possible. I'd love to get 2 of these guys on my DFS lineups.
It is possible. You have to get, because there is a 5K range this week, but you have to get down there. But honestly, there's a lot of really good golfers that are like $5,500 that are like touring pros, right? They're not past champions. They're not the PGA professional, the 20 that qualified. They're like legitimate touring pros. So yes, it is definitely possible this week. The 9K tier, we have talked about. We've talked a lot about Justin Thomas, who is on your list. Patrick Cantlay a little bit, but I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on Tommy Fleetwood, who's also on this short list here.
Tommy Fleetwood has been phenomenally consistent. And if you're looking at this thinking he'll never win, we're talking DFS lineups here, right? I don't necessarily need to win. I think the winner's coming on from somebody on the last page. So at this point, we're filling out our team with bench strength. And when you look at what Tommy Fleetwood has done with his consistency, it's tremendous. It's like 10 out of the last 11 where he's gained strokes off the tee, and 10 out of the last 11 approaching the green, and 5 out of the last 7 putting, and 8 out of the last 9 around the green where he's gained strokes. He gained strokes through the bag. And major championships ask you to be good in every single area. That's what Tommy Fleetwood is. Then you look at his record here, his last 3 starts at Quail Hollow, all top 15s. He can be a really valuable piece in your lineups this week.
Yeah, the other 2 on Greg's short list here were JT and Patrick Cantlay, but I really am fascinated about this 8K range because we did spend a lot of time talking about the guys at the top, and we are no longer there. You narrowed down the 8K range to 2 golfers for this week, and I need to know who they are and why you did just that.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about this range in general. I'm not crazy about the 7K range either, but Patrick Reed has a really strong record here at Quail Hollow. Surprisingly strong, considering his lack of distance. But, there's, like I said, there's a couple ways to go about it. You can go ahead and cut corners and play that way. And then there's the way that the most of the field will play. Patrick Reed has all the tools necessary to play golf that way. His short game raises his floor, in my opinion. And so we've seen some really nice performances from him on Live. He played great golf at the Masters, and his record at Quail Hollow is, like I said, shockingly good. He finished tied 6th the last time he was here. He finished tied 2nd in the PGA that we were talking about earlier with KP. Another 8th place finish. 3 out of his last 4 trips to Quail Hollow have been top 10s. So I think he deserves some attention and could really be a part of the story this week. If you're building a lineup and you got 5 bombers on it, throwing Patrick Reed in there is not a bad idea.
Also, every time on paper it looks like a horrible golf course for him, he finds his way to the first page. It is remarkable that he does it a completely different way, but he does it.
He does. He does. He just figures it out. So I like that grittiness. I know that his motivation is still extremely high. Then we have Corey Connors, who Kyle mentioned, and I'm a fan of this. The last 2 trips to Quail Hollow, not including the President's Cup, he finished tied 8th and tied 13th. Another player who's going to play this the traditional way. He is not a bomber, but his ball striking is at an extremely, he hits it as well as anybody. He's 10th in greens in regulation. He's very accurate. I think he hits 73% of his greens and about 63% of his fairways, which are really high marks. And that kind of golf, that kind of style works in majors. So dotting the fairways, dotting the greens, whether it's long irons or what, which it will be, I think Corey Connors has the stuff to handle that.
Yeah, I like that. I'm interested to see both of these guys. I'm just very curious. They're going to try to do it different ways. Curious to see how they get on. The 7K range. So these are even deeper. We got more. We got 7s, we got 6s, we got 5s. You have narrowed it down to 2 here. I will admit, seeing Sam Burns caught my attention. Let's start there.
Yeah, I don't really like much in this range. And so why is Sam Burns here? This is a total flyer. But he finished tied 13th last time he was here. He did play really good golf at the President's Cup. And his DNA as a golfer is really strong driving and really strong putting. I think that combo works here. I think he will have the ability to lean on his driver, even though his iron stats do not match up. It wouldn't surprise me if he went out there and put together some really good rounds and maybe made a charge on Sunday and got us a backdoor T15. I could see that happening. So I don't love it, but I think more so than anybody else in this range, I think the ceiling's a little bit higher.
And then the other guy is probably one of the handful of guys I was able to see play a couple of holes today before things got really nasty out there. Who is your other golfer in the 7K range?
It's Captain Keegan Bradley, who's played some steady golf here, right? Top 35 his last 3 trips to Quail Hollow. A tied 18th was his best, a tied 21st. His game is really steady. He's a long and straight driver of the golf ball, although not a bomber, not taking it over these dog legs. He hits it long enough. He's gained strokes to the field, approaching the green every event since the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. The putter has been a little bit of a struggle, but he's putted well at Quail before. So I think there's a chance we see an uptick in his performance, and he's only 7,200.
Sam Burns and Keegan Bradley, there are still many names to go. There's like 100 golfers between the 6K and the 5K range. How about the 6K range next here? You've got 3 for us. Where are you going in this range?
Yeah, this is a great graphic, Mina. I love Jake Knapp taking a nap here. I wouldn't take a nap on Jake Knapp this week. This is a great fit for him. He's a really long hitter. I'll tell you a quick story. We were doing an interview with Jake Knapp last year at the Travelers, and Michael was talking to him, asking him about his apex. Like, he was hitting balls in this interview. What do you apex the driver at? Is it like 130? And he kind of sheepishly looks. He's like, like 150. It's like, wow. Okay. So when he's swinging at it, now he will alter his flight. Sometimes he'll hit it low, but when he wants to, he can hit it way up in the air, and he can hit it a mile. And his iron play has been really strong this year. It's been a much better than it was last year. His putting has been pretty good. So I think Jake Knapp has a really strong chance to play well, make the cut, and be a really good value play this week.
Yeah, I like that. I like that as well.
Then we go to Harris English, and Harris English is a complete grinder who I'm pretty excited about. Where is he? He's at 6,800. So Harris English finished tied 11th at the Truist. He finished tied 12th at the Masters, tied 18th in Houston. The Masters in Houston specifically, they require some really long approaches into the greens as well. And where did he win this year? Well, the only golf course longer than the Wells Fargo. That would be Torrey Pines South. He won the Farmers there. So I like Harris English on these big golf courses, even though he's not a bomber. This is a style of play that fits him nicely.
I love what you've done here. You've found, some skill sets, right? Knapp's driver, of course, and he's been playing better as of late. Harris English, the tougher it gets, the better he gets. I like what you're doing here. You've got one more name, and what did you get here? Yeah,
this is Steven Yeager. Again, a play on the distance. You look at Steven Yeager's career, and he's had great success in Mexico. Which, look, I'm not comparing the Vidanta course to Quail Hollow, but there is one comparison, and that's the length of approach shots, the number of drivers that you hit. The other place where that really comes into play is Houston, where he won last year. He's played really good golf at Torrey Pines before, although not this year. This is the kind of ballpark that suits Steven Yeager really well, and I like the price at 6,500.
That's Knapp, it's English, it's Yeager. We've got one more tier to go here. It is the rare, the unique, the unicorn $5,000 tier. We don't get it every week. We usually only get it at major championships, and you, Greg, have plucked 2 golfers out of this range that you're comfortable with.
Gary Woodland at 5,800. I talked about him in my in the grid. I have him for a top 40. I think there's a really strong chance of Gary Woodland making the cut. And you get down here into the 5K range, that's going to unlock a Rory Bryson combo, a Scotty Bryson combo for your lineup. So we're looking for cut makers here, and that's what Gary Woodland does around Quail Hollow. He plays the golf course very well, and his skill sets line up.
I love that. And the other golfer that you found is the second golfer that I saw on site this week. Not the first. That's always the guy that I always throw $10 on the first guy.
Was that Keegan?
It was Keegan at Valhalla. It was last year.
Okay.
So this year, I did not even get, and I saw Keegan at the hotel last year. This is about as early as I can see somebody. I saw at baggage claim 3 when I landed, American Airlines were waiting for our bags. The earliest I've ever seen a player was Kurt Kitayama. So I put $10 on Kurt Kitayama, and
Wow.
he beat Sammy Valimaki by 3 seconds, because then Sammy came flying in and grabbed his bag. So that's almost got Sammy.
So, well, it's probably a good thing. I don't think Sammy's going to win. I don't think Kurt Kitayama's going to win either. But I like the way Sammy Valimaki's been playing. He got on that hot streak, right? He came in 4th in Houston, tied 12th at the Valero Texas Open, tied 18th at the RBC Heritage. And then a couple of off weeks before finishing tied 7th in Myrtle Beach, another big hitters kind of golf course. Now, Sammy Valimaki is like 115 mile an hour club head speed, very average when it comes to the distance, but he too tends to perform well on golf courses with, he came in 2nd to Jake Knapp in Mexico, a lot of drivers, a lot of long approaches, 4th in Houston this year. Seems to be a style of golf that fits his game. And I think he's playing really good golf, which sometimes we look too much into course fit and not enough into who's just playing some really good golf.
Really good golf. That does the trick no matter where we are. We are not even remotely close to being done for the week. In fact, we are going round by round for a major championship. This is the goal. This is what we want to do. We're going to take an opportunity to do it this week as we grow the pod. Feels like a really good opportunity to do just that. If you want to support, Patreon is a good option. If you don't want to fork up some cash, that's fine. How about subscribe? How about like? How about share it with your friends? How about give it a retweet? All that stuff. Write a review. All that fun stuff that costs nothing helps us at this very critical time in which we are trying to build this podcast after the relaunch. Greg, I cannot believe that we are not playing golf tomorrow and we have to wait out a whole nother day. But I'm going to do my best to learn more about the golf course and see if I can report back.
Look, I've been feeling this way since Scotty won the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson. I was just ready for this week to start. We had to go through the whole Truist Championship and get into Philly Cricket Club, which was great. And it was great to see Sepp perform the way he did. But it's finally here. And I can wait one more day because I have a feeling we're going to get some really nice weather for all 4 days. You're going to have a great time out there on the golf course. Great time breaking it down afterwards with us. And I have a feeling this is going to be an all-timer. I said it on Twitter, Rick, most anticipated major I can remember in my lifetime. Some people have been calling me out on that. I am not kidding. I cannot remember one with these kinds of storylines, this many strong storylines coming in.
Well, from your lips to the golf god's ears, I hope it is absolutely true. We'll be back at it again on Thursday at the conclusion of the round and every round this week. Big thanks to producer Mina. She does all the hard work behind the scenes. For Greg DuCharme, for Kyle Porter, for Mark Immelman, for Donald McPatrick. I'm Rick Gehman. This has been The Second Cut. We'll catch you next time.